The NFL wire always hot. New news rolling in as the Cleveland Browns are expected to start Shedeur Sanders for their Friday preseason opener. That's according to multiple reports. Sanders missed some of last week with a sore shoulder and has been taking reps with the fourth string during training camp. But with Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel both nursing hamstrings, could be a high snap count for Sanders on Friday night. Meantime, Colts head coach Shane Steichen announced that Anthony Richardson will start the preseason opener against the Ravens. The Colts listed Richardson or Daniel Jones as the starter on the unofficial depth chart released on Monday. Steichen says Richardson will play a quarter and a half before being relieved by Jones. They will then flip that plan for the second preseason game with Jones starting against the Packers. It's a strategy shift in Cincy, where the Bengals plan to give their starters extended playing time this preseason. Head coach Zach Taylor's looking for a shakeup after going 4-7 in September over the last 3 seasons. That includes last year's 0-3 start. Here's more from Taylor on Tuesday.
We'll see. You know, this won't be. We don't have this targeted as the biggest play time for all of our guys. We really pegged Washington to be a little more of that. So, again, another thing I hate to put in stone, several series is what we'll give those starters.
What are you hoping to get out of those? Like, it's the first time they've really been out there extensively. What are you hoping to get out of that?
Game atmosphere. So going on the road like we are week 1, we do have a road primetime game early in the season, so the lights are on, you're in a road environment, that's great. Getting everybody off the field, you know, as much as we practice it and do it, it's not the same feel. So I think just those 11 guys being in the huddle on both sides of the ball and all the communications that got to occur. So it's just a good opportunity for those guys to get some additional reps.
Hydra chewing gum. Pete Carroll's fired up for a homecoming on Thursday night. That'll come when the Raiders visit the Seahawks to open up preseason play. It'll mark Carroll's first time back in Seattle since being fired by the organization following the 2023 season. He was asked on Tuesday about his thoughts and being back in the place where he accomplished so much.
It's the only game we got. Happens to be in Seattle. You know, I loved my time in Seattle and loved the fans and the people that we met and dealt with and competed with. But it's a game for us. We can go play ball. I have not heard anything about what you just talked about. I don't know what you're talking about tributes or whatever. It was an experiment, you know, coming out of USC to go to the NFL and to see if the way we had developed, the culture that we had created, the concept of competing the way we did would carry over. And mostly it was the way we treated the people in our program. I wasn't sure. I had an inkling that it would be okay, but I didn't know, and a lot of people probably questioned it as well. But we didn't change anything. We maintained the philosophy. We adapted to the players and, of course, the game. And felt, after it's said and done, I feel really good about the time we spent there, that we were able to stay with what we believed in and make it work out so all right. So that's really what stands out about it.
Elsewhere, deals being done. Running back Kyron Williams has agreed to a 3-year, $33 million extension with the Rams. During his 4th professional season, Williams ranked 7th in the league a year ago with nearly 1,300 yards on the ground, adding 14 touchdowns. And the NFL is suspending Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison for the first 3 games of the season for violating the league's substance abuse policy. Addison was arrested in July of 2024 on suspicion of DUI after being found asleep in his car near the Los Angeles International Airport. Addison pleaded no contest to a lesser charge in July. He'll miss games against the Bears, the Falcons, and the Bengals. For more on the news, we say hello to CBS Sports NFL analyst John Breech and Ryan Wilson. Fellas, for the second consecutive day, we start in Cleveland. We're going to do that now because it's not likely to be the case when the games roll around. I'm just interested in how we're going to play this thing out. We're starting Shedeur Sanders for the opener almost, I don't know, out of necessity with the way that quarterback room looks like right now, Ryan. But hasn't the whole thing left the decision makers in Cleveland with potential egg on their face? If Shedeur wins this preseason, how do you justify spending a third on a quarterback that may not play for your franchise ever?
Well, I mean, we could look at it that way, Joe, or we could look at it the same way that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan looked at having Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant outplay Trey Lance eventually. But we're not quite at that point in the conversation. And the other thing I caution against, and Shedeur was my quarterback, too, throughout the draft process. I thought he wouldn't get past the Steelers at 20. He obviously went in the 5th round. But I do remember a few years ago when they drafted Dorian Thompson-Robinson on day 3, and he absolutely balled out in one of his early preseason games. And didn't work out. He has since been traded, and he is no longer in Cleveland. So I would just take a pinch of caution as we watch this and just see what it looks like, because, we talk about it all the time. There's not going to be anything intricate with the defenses he's facing. He's just going to be asked to execute, play on time, try to get through his reads, don't make mistakes, get in and out of the huddle. Those are the things you want to see. The quarterback competition, quotation marks, feels like it's going to be Joe Flacco, in part because of injury, in part because he's probably outplayed Kenny Pickett by a little bit. And then the question becomes who's going to be the next QB among the rookies, whether it's Dylan Gabriel, who's currently banged up, and then Shedeur Sanders, who is QB4 for much of training camp. So I'm not going to read too much into it just yet. Now, if he comes out and balls out, I'll be happy for him. We can have a conversation after the fact. But this is an opportunity to go out there and play and play with some, if not ones, twos, and see what you can do, because he has not had a ton of opportunities in training camp so far.
Yeah, Ryan, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is absolutely a huge opportunity. If this was a NASCAR race, Shedeur Sanders is 4th place by far, but the guys in front of him all just got flat tires, and now he has a chance to kind of zoom out in front, surprisingly. I mean, you look at how the Cleveland Browns have handled him since drafting him in the 5th round. He didn't get any first-team reps in the spring. He hasn't gotten very many first-team reps in training camp, and maybe that's where it comes in with Joe talking about the Browns feeling like they might have egg on their face. Well, they've been limiting what he's doing in practice. If he comes in against the Carolina Panthers and balls out and just throws for 200 yards and completes 80% of his passes and just looks fantastic overall, well, then you got to put him in the conversation. Joe Flacco is the front runner, but you got to put him in the conversation. So it will be interesting, especially because Shedeur Sanders gets to play the Carolina Panthers. I don't know if you guys watched the Panthers play last season, but they had the worst defense in the NFL. They gave up more yardage than any other team, and this is the preseason version of the Panthers. Not going to be their first team the whole time. So Shedeur Sanders certainly could go out there and put up some impressive numbers. So I'm going to be very interested to see how he plays on Friday night.
Yeah, the general manager selecting a quarterback one day and then the owner selecting one another. Totally run-of-the-mill stuff here in Cleveland, as it always is. Let's close the loop on another Monday topic we had, gentlemen. It's Richardson or Jones, or so we were told, but kind of Richardson first, or at least that's how it's going to go for game 1 of the preseason. John, do you see any of this as an effort to simulate pressure for the third-year quarterback, still longing for that experience and maybe put him under the gun early?
Yeah, it does feel like that. Let him get under center first. Let him be the starter in the first preseason game, and you see what happens, because now it feels like that Shane Steichen's thinking, all right, if he can go out there and prove something he hasn't been able to prove, which is that he can be an accurate quarterback, not turn the ball over, then maybe that makes him the front runner for this QB job. And as we know, Daniel Jones is going to play, and then Daniel Jones is going to start the second preseason game. So it's not like Richardson's going to get jump way ahead in this competition, even if he plays well against the Ravens. Now, the downside for Anthony Richardson is he is playing the one team, the one head coach who treats every preseason game like a Super Bowl. The Ravens are 20-5 in their past 25 preseason games. So maybe Richardson, this is good for him because it's going to feel more like a real game going up against Baltimore. But absolutely, you're Anthony Richardson. You're kind of on your last attempt probably to win a starting job. And if you want to get a leg up in this competition, you need to go out and play well against Baltimore in this first preseason game. So there's absolutely some pressure on him.
So Shedeur Sanders, 5th-round pick, Breech, rookie, and Anthony Richardson, year 3, former top 5 pick. And they basically need to do the same things. Throw the ball on time, don't make mistakes, get in and out of the huddle, hand the ball off without mistakes, don't muff snaps, all those things. And that'll be a step in the right direction. Now, we're going into year 3 with Anthony Richardson. You'd like to see him a little further along. And when you read the training camp reports out of Indianapolis, I shouldn't laugh, but the biggest issue in the red zone for the quarterbacks, both AR5 and, of course, Daniel Jones. And look, I'll just say this. It feels like Anthony Richardson is going to be the starter because Daniel Jones isn't even Joe Flacco. And no disrespect to Daniel Jones if he's watching this, but there's a reason he's on his 3rd team already after sort of flaming out with Brian Dable in New York. So there are many reasons to be excited about Anthony Richardson, but as Breech pointed out, we have not seen them. And when you are consistently in a graphic with Tim Tebow and Jamarcus Russell, that ain't great. So this is an opportunity to right that ship. Go out there, play mistake-free football, and see what happens. And, you know, don't take unnecessary hits, which got him injured earlier in his career.
I was going to say Flacco being our through line here from Indianapolis to Cleveland. We'll see who it is and where it is, but clean execution in that process is what we're looking for early on in these preseason games. Speaking of pressure, Breech, your beloved Bengals applying some of their own, a team-wide memo perhaps in order with a reminder that the season starts in September and not October. Zach Taylor says the season starts right now. How do you like the decision to roll the starters out there in the preseason?
Joe, if you have watched the Bengals play the first 2 weeks of the season over the past 6 years, then you understand why they are doing this. If there is one thing Zach Taylor has not been able to do, it's been able to get his team on the same page to start the season. Since he took over as head coach in 2019, the Bengals are 1-11 in the first 2 weeks of the season. And you think, oh, well, maybe they've been better with Joe Burrow. No, they're 1-9 with Joe Burrow. It has not been any better. And so a big part of that is because Burrow's been dealing with injuries. He had the calf injury. He had his appendix removed, the wrist injury last year. So there's just always been something that's kind of kept the offense from getting in sync. Well, there are no excuses this year because everyone's under contract. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Joe Burrow's healthy. He said he's throwing the football as well as he's ever thrown it. So now this is where you get your starters in there. You get some snaps and you make sure you don't go to Cleveland in week 1 and lose 10-6 because your offense isn't in sync. So I do like this move by Zach Taylor, and I will say he's been changing a lot this season. It's like he went back to the drawing board and said, we got to do things differently. They actually are practicing in the morning now at training camp. Previously, they've been practicing in the afternoon, so they flipped around quite a few things just to kind of try and fix things so that this team doesn't come out of the gate so slowly.
Yeah, Joe, there are a lot of NFL games that take place at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, so those a.m. practices are probably going to pay off really well for the Cincinnati Bengals. But Breech's point is right, and when we did the Pick Six podcast, I would ask Breech what would I ask you every week, Breech, about Zach Taylor?
Is Zach Taylor a good coach?
Because we don't know. You can't go 1-11 in the first 2 weeks of games your entire time as a head coach and go 0-7 in the last 7 games in the first 2 weeks of the game and everyone be like, oh, yeah, this guy's fine. And look, it is not just Joe Burrow because as Breech noted, Joe Burrow consistently got hurt in late July the last 2 or 3 years, and he was not 100% healthy when the season rolled around. So I'm also for trying whatever it takes, whether that's practicing at 8 a.m. or midnight in order to mix things up because I do think Zach Taylor is a good coach. But I will say this, he's also gotten opportunities that other coaches would not have gotten and probably would have long since been asked to get their pink slip out of the locker and move on. So they have Joe Burrow, they have Jamar Chase, they have T. Higgins. They got to figure out the defense. But if they can get up to a strong start, the defense will matter less because they'll be 2-1, 3-0 instead of facing 0-1, 0-2, 1-2 and trying to get over that hurdle, which has been the situation through much of the Zach Taylor regime.
Taking a quick look, they do not play an international game this season, so body clock be damned, but we practice when it's cooler out, if nothing else. One more for you here, guys. Kyren Williams gets to the bag, $33 million over 3 years. Guarantees indicate essentially a 2-year deal. Makes him the 7th highest paid player at the position. Ryan, how do you like the deal, and what might it mean elsewhere for that hold-in in Buffalo, if anything at all?
Yeah, that's where my mind first went. I love the deal for Kyren Williams. And I'll start with this. I remember talking to him at the Combine, and one of the things he wanted to make clear, which is sort of funny, that he was more than a blocking back, because he's one of the best blocking backs coming out of the draft at that time, and that's translated to the NFL. He's also really good running the ball, clearly, and he wanted to show that he could do that. And then he ran a 4.65. So he wasn't a first-round pick, wasn't a second-round pick, wasn't a third-round pick. But he has played himself into that deal that he has earned. And that brings us to James Cook in Buffalo, who was probably, or should be, calling his agent saying, yo, man, what are we doing here? I think the Bills had an offer on the table. They decided to hold in, quotation marks. So eventually I think James Cook is going to play. He's holding in. He's not holding out. He's avoiding the fines. But you wonder why you're dragging your feet, because you're not going to get Christian McCaffrey money. You're not going to get much north of what Kyren is getting in terms of average annual value. Maybe you get $11.5, $12 million. But the more you wait, the more difficult it gets for you because, again, you're playing a position on a team where the star and the moon and all the planets revolve around Josh Allen.
It's getting closer, fellas. We appreciate the time, as always, here assessing some of the top stories in the NFL on Tuesday. By closer, I mean 32 days and counting. The countdown is on September 7th. Just a whole host of sleeps away as the NFL returns to CBS and streaming on Paramount+.